Okay, so let's look at our problem here. Our problem says, if we just read it, it's a 6 minus 4/3 times x is greater than or equal to 38/5. Let's see if we can eliminate some of these answer choices by just using our estimating skills to figure out what this answer could be and what it couldn't be. If we look at this problem, we say 6 minus 4/3 is very close to 1. It's a little bit more than 1, but it's close to 1. So we could just say that that's 1, and we're going to leave that 1 out. Every letter really has an invisible 1 in front of it. So we could really say 6 minus x is greater than or equal to, and if we look at estimating this number, remember every fraction is really a division problem. So this really says 38 divided by 5. And we know that 5 goes into 38 a little more than 7 times, because 7 times 5 is 35. So if we look at this problem, it says 6 minus some number is greater than 7. How can we do subtraction and end up with a number bigger than what we started? The answer is the only way we can get bigger than what we started while we're subtracting is subtract a negative number. Because subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. So we know that our answer cannot be either one of these. Right now, just that little step, we've eliminated down to these 2 answer choices. Now, there's where it gets trickier, but we could still maybe do it with estimation. 6/5 is close to 1 too. It's just a little bit more than 1 because 5 goes into 6, because every fraction is really a division problem, 1 time with a little bit left over. So we really could say our choices are estimating x is greater than or equal to a -1, or x is less than or equal to -1. If we come back up here where we're estimating and put in our estimated answers here, remember, inequalities mean there's a lot of answers that can make this true. We just need a number that makes these true. So if we look at this first one here, x is greater than a -1, on our number line, here's a -1. Anything on this side is greater than a -1. So for purposes of just trying answers, I like to use 0 whenever I can. And 0 is greater than a -1, because if I had no money, I would have more money than if I owed somebody $1. So let's put 0 in here and see if that comes out to be true. 6 minus 0 is greater than 7. Is that true? If I just do the math, I get 6 is greater than a -7. It isn't. 6 will never be more than 7. That's not true. So I can eliminate this answer choice. Haven't even solved this equation like they want me to. But this is a way to eliminate answer choices. Let's try this one just to see. So now if I'm looking at what's less than a -1, that's anything on this side. This side. So -1, so -2 would be less than a -1. A -3 would be less than a -1. And -4, -5, all of those are less than a -1. I could pick any of them and it should come out to be true if I've solved this correctly. So let's just try it. 6 minus a -2, is that greater than or equal to 7? Well, let's look at our math. 6 minus a -2. When you're subtracting a negative in a problem like that, the 2 negatives are going to cancel each other out and make that to be like an addition problem. So now my problem becomes 6 plus 2, which would be 8, is greater than 7. Is 8 greater than 7? Yes, every day. So our answer for this problem should be this. But let's just do it like they want so we can see how we should really be doing this problem and see if that's the answer we get. This problem causes people to have heart attacks because of all those fractions in there. Remember, though, this would be a problem that you would have the calculator, use of the calculator for on the GED test. And it has a fraction button on it. Don't hesitate to use that fraction button. So the rules about solving an inequality is the same as rules about solving an equation. First step would be look to see if there's anything to simplify, any math you can do ahead of time. So if I look on this side, I've got 6 minus 4/3 of an x. I can't do any math here because this is a number and this really is a letter, something I don't know. That's as simple as it gets, even though it doesn't look very simple. This side is also as simple as it can get. I could reduce the fraction and make it into a mixed number. I could do all of that, which technically could be categorized as simpler. But for our purposes, this is how we want to leave it. We don't want to worry about simplifying fractions until we get to the end. So this is as simple as it gets. The next step would be move variable onto one side of that inequality or the other. I only have one variable. Only one. And it's right here. And I'm going to leave it right here. What I don't want over here with this x, I don't want this 6 here. And I don't want this 4/3. I want just the x. That would be solving that inequality, to have x by itself and everything else on the other side of the equation. So to make that happen, I need to get rid of the 6 and the 4/3. The last thing when you're solving equations, inequalities, algebra problems, that you're going to do anything with is the number that's right next to the letter, the number that's attached to the letter. So I'm going to start with this one first. The 6 is going to go away. How do I make a 6 go away? This is a positive 6. So the way I'm going to make that positive 6 go away is to put it with a negative 6. A positive 6 and a negative 6, they cancel each other out. It's going to leave me with nothing here. But I can't do that on this side without doing the same thing on this side. So on this side, I'm going to need to also subtract 6, because I subtracted 6 over here. I need to subtract 6 over here. This part would be trying to remember those rules about fractions. This would be where I would say, put this in your calculator. 38/5 subtract 6. And let me do real quick. Would be me having to figure it out here. I'm going to put it in my calculator. They give you these tools to use. You really should take advantage of that and do it. It's a time test, and they are expecting you to use that calculator. When I do that, when I do this math, it does work out to be 8/5. Which I think I'm messed up somehow. 30 over. Yeah, okay, we're good. Okay, this side I haven't done anything with this 4/3 and this x, so it has to stay here. But now this side has become 8/5. The next step, remember, I want the x by itself. I don't want this negative 4/3 here. This negative 4/3 needs to come over here to this side. These two things are multiplied. To make that negative 4/3 go away, I'm going to have to divide. Divide both sides by negative 4/3. Again, calculator. You would have the calculator. You can put this into the calculator. 8/5 divided by negative 4/3. When you do that, it's going to give you, make sure it does, yeah. A negative 6/5. Here's the thing where inequalities are different than equations. If this were an equal sign right here, I would just leave the equal sign. In fact, I'm going to leave the equal part. That doesn't change. This, however, does. Because we divided this by a negative number, we have to take this inequality and turn it around. Turn it around. Only when you multiply or divide by a negative number. And when we do that, we get the same answer that we got by looking at our answer choices ahead of time. So that